Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce these two ladies. I believe they're two legends in the Bay Area. But before I do that, if you see this, forgive my background here. It's usually really great, but you see those boxes there. Me and wife here is in the process of moving to a new house, and so we have to move out by the end of the month to get into the new house that we got. And so excuse that. And this is part of the reason that I haven't been doing the podcast for at least for a month now. But I'll get into it again once we settle in the new house. But meanwhile, if you are from the Bay Area and even in the East Coast Latin dance scene, back in the old day, you already know my first guest here, Ava Apple, who has guested in our podcast a few months ago and has the most views, one of the most views in YouTube. And we introduced you this another legend in the Bay Area. Her name is Audrianna Correa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Hi.
Ladies.
Hi, Rodney.
You guys already know Ava from the last vlog and all of her accolades and all of that stuff. But what you don't know about Audrianna, from what I've known her and back in the day, because I grew up in the salsa scene, taking her classes at Cafe Kokomo. She was, at that time, she was strictly dancing and teaching On2, and I was very impressed with her teaching and her partners. And at that time, On2 was just beginning in the Bay Area. But anyways, ladies, Ava, since we talked, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
How are the classes going? You're doing great?
Well, I'm doing a few Facebook live stream classes and a few Zoom classes. Not a lot, but just a little. It keeps me having to put on some makeup and do some dancing, right? Instead of just wearing sweats all day, every day. So it's been good. And actually last Friday in my class, I had a couple of viewers tuning in from Australia, because the Friday afternoon class is Saturday late morning for them. So it worked perfect. That was kind of fun. So that's what I'm doing.
I think one of the good
Zoom and a few Facebook.
One of the good things that I find in the Zoom thing, right? Because we got into the Zoom thing because of the pandemic, because we can't do group classes in the studio. I think one of the benefit there is that the artists are exposing themselves more internationally. The people that wanted to take classes with you but couldn't because you're far away, right? Now could be coached by you and all of this other stuff. So that I think that's one good thing, I think, in our industry that happened during this pandemic. As all you know, the vaccine is just around the corner, and I'm hoping that it will be back to normal pretty soon, probably by the end of the year. But
we have to be patient. The Zoom thing, yes, it has enabled me to work with two people. That one, a belly dance teacher of mine that doesn't live here anymore, and so for years I was not able to take her classes. But as soon as this shutdown started, she started this online Zoom program. So now I get to train with her again. She's on the East Coast. Yeah. And another friend of mine who's on the East Coast that is doing a challenge that I'm participating in. I'm actually not going to say the name or anything right now in case I don't want to show on the final product. But if I feel comfortable and I do, then I'll be promoting it and sharing it.
And Audrianna, how long has it been since Salsa Gang days that we've hang out, right? That's long.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if we're talking about Salsa Gang days, that's during the MySpace time. I was like,
right? Oh, I know.
How are you? How you been?
I'm good. So busy with I have my 10-year-old that, actively involved with his schooling, distant learning.
Yeah.
And been on the PTAs for years now.
Wow.
But yeah, that and running the business and, trying to do as much outdoor gardening as I can. It's the only time I get to go outside.
Where do you live in South Bay, right?
Yes, still in the South Bay. Hmm.
I mean, I thought you disappeared from the industry until I saw you at Ava's studio. You guys are practicing some
I
routines
keep
or
I
something.
keep pulling her back in.
That's a
I
good
try.
thing.
I try constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good, a good run for us, being creative anyways, trying to stay creative.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I like to stay creative doing the routines and stuff like that. So that's where I kind of fit in a little more,
I mean,
you know.
ladies, you've been in the scene for a long time. I consider you as legends. I consider you as pioneers, right? uh, uh, it- you know, uh, Ava is pretty much consistent with this,
Yeah.
as I told her before. But with both of you, what changes you think in our industry when it comes to salsa, right? What are the changes that you see that are good? And what are the changes that you see that are bad? You go first, Ava.
So my dance company is this year celebrating its 30th anniversary.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So I every day I have on my team Facebook page, I have been sharing a photo, a video, a memory. Only 21 or 22 days in, I got a whole
Yeah,
year to go, but there's
yeah,
plenty. I've got plenty of material, 30
right.
years worth. So just the other day, it was John Narvaez's birthday. So I shared a photo that has him when he and Liz for a short time were on my team.
Uh-huh.
And that was the year because we used to perform at a festival called Karijama in Oakland on Memorial Day. So that was before the LA Congress had started. It was,
Right.
I believe, 1998. And I think it might have even been before Puerto Rico, or maybe Puerto Rico had happened that summer. But anyway, it was before LA Congress because it was the last time we performed at Karijama, because once LA started, we were down there every Memorial Day weekend. So that was a big turning point, I believe, in the salsa world, in the
Mm,
salsa community, was when Puerto Rico and LA started doing congresses. And then as that grew, because when we went to those events, it was international, and we saw all these different styles, and we also, all of us, saw that, like, Puerto Rico and New York kind of being the top,
mm,
right? We were able to really see it more and really learn from them more and be challenged and inspired. So that was a significant moment, was when the congresses started.
right.
Um,
That's when it started growing as a
yeah.
community all over. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that is maybe not as much of a plus in a way is, because, and I kind of hate to say this, because YouTube and Facebook and all of these are pluses in so many ways,
Sure.
right? But pre-pandemic, now we have to be online, but let's say pre-pandemic, maybe a little bit of a downside is how many people think that they can learn just by watching
Mm,
YouTube.
true.
Um, not that everybody does that, but there's a lot of people that, and it's not, right now it's kind of, we have to Zoom and YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
But when we hopefully get back to being able to be in person, people need to do that as well. So that might be just a little bit of a downside, but it kind of, all the pluses and the good stuff about it, I think, kind of outweigh that. But it's just important for people to remember that when we can, they should be taking classes in person,
Right.
from an experienced teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think, Adriana? I mean, the changes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, in the beginning, of course, the pushback from learning On2. I mean, I felt it the most because I was the one that spearheaded it, you know. And that's why I kind of like tried to stay a little out of the scene, because I didn't want to rock the boat too much.
Yeah.
But I knew that it had to happen, and thankfully so, because I mean, wow, look at what produced. You know, the amount of, you know, performance, you know, the teams that came around, the embracing of, you know, the just the whole environment, the whole scene, so to speak. New York, LA, and then San Francisco hit the map, and we
Yeah.
stayed on the map.
Yeah.
You know, that was amazing, and I felt so proud of that happening, because we finally said, hey, it's time, you know, let's step it up a notch. You know, with the performance levels going to change, the creativity just exploded. I thought, wow, this is amazing. And then all that together, all the other countries that joined us,
Yeah.
you know, via all the congresses, and thanks to David and Albert, of course, Albert on our side of town, making and paving the way. David, you know, and Choco doing the same in New York,
Yeah.
just bridging the whole scene. And then later, of course, you guys, you know, head out into Reno and do your thing out there. And it's like, wow, so grateful for all that. And I feel like, you know, any kind of negative out of that might still be, of course, the egos that people get, you know, and maybe they need to be a little more humble. And
Good luck on that in their industry.
I mean, it's okay to feel good about yourself, right? It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And that has to be part of the element too. You know, you can't take away from feeling good and looking good and making sure you want to be the best.
Right.
But you know, everyone gets to share their creativity, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so in that element, you know, you think of now we're going to evolve into the off-Broadway gigs, and Addie did that. Addie Diaz, Nelson Flores, they did those pieces to get us up into that theatrical environment.
Yeah.
Maria Torres
Correa
O'Connor.
Torres.
I'm talking about these people that, you know, are paving the way for theater, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where you want to be. And they've had their share of being in movie bits and stuff like that. So that's, you know, entertainment, right? You take the whole umbrella and put it under that. And
Yeah.
we finally made the map, like, you know, Latin music, Latin
Absolutely. Yeah.
art, you
J
know.
Lo singing at the inauguration.
Oh, yeah.
He did, didn't she? She did. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, people of color, people of, you know, culture, I want to say. It encompasses the whole picture,
Yeah.
you know. So that I would be mostly ecstatic about.
I think that both of you made good points as far as the negative is concerned. As far as Ava, we live in a different generation now, as you know. Everything is instant, right? Everything is like quick results driven,
Mhm.
and so when it comes to learning basics. Laying the foundation there's no way you can get that from watching videos, from watching YouTubes. I mean, I remember when everyone used to videotape Frankie Martinez and his move, and then they tried to do it in the dance floor. I'm sorry for my language. It was fucked up. I'm sorry. They were trying to learn something that they didn't have foundation with, and trying to copy it. I mean, the only thing accurate they could copy is putting that dancers into the back pocket. That was it. But I agree with Ava on that one, and with Audrianna, I agree with that too, because I think, yeah, it did grow a little bit, right? When it comes to entertainment, uh, it it's not as mainstream as it should have been, but it
Mm-hmm.
is considered widely every city that you go to, and every country, you have salsa classes, you have salsa parties, right? Um, but I'm still a little bit disappointed that we're not into the area of um, mainstream, if you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. Because as a promoter, for me to do events like this, we seek sponsorships, right? We're talking companies, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, you name it, right? They wouldn't even give us. They wouldn't even complete our listen to our complete sentences. Like, nah, there's no money in that. You know, there's not enough people that does that. I mean, one of the things that I saw in my salsa days, it's called Latin Madness. You remember these, right? Both of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
I
was a
saw that. That's Nelson.
it was a theatrical approach that was developed by Nelson Flores. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I, the moment I saw that, I had high hopes,
Right.
but it died quickly. Why?
Mhm.
Because there was no sponsorship. So
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, I'm glad that everyone is dancing salsa now, but in another sense, as a as in our business industry, to be a fulfilling career, I don't see it that way, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean Ava, I was talking to her in the last video. It's like she's been consistent throughout, man. I mean, I have never seen this girl quit. So there is that side of her, right? But let's talk about On2, because all right, somebody asked me the other day, if you grew up in a city, which city do you prefer dance wise to lay your foundation, right? Some people say, oh, yeah, I like LA because I like the Vasquez brothers. I like New York because I like the mambo scene. Nobody ever said San Francisco. I was probably the only one who believed that, because looking back at it now, I love the idea that my foundation in dance was in San Francisco. If my foundation was in New York, then you're gonna see me as a New York dancer. I look like a New Yorker. I would dance like a New Yorker, right? Or LA, I would probably do some kung fu karate stuff and break somebody's elbow on the floor. But whatever. But but San Francisco, it's so diverse. It's so multidimensional when it comes to dance styles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you think, Audrianna? Besides, with the On2 phenomenon getting into the Bay Area, because at that time we were dancing on one already, right? And not to
Right.
mention Cuban salsa, which is predominantly on three. But then this On2 came
Right.
to mix with everything, right?
Okay, so I mean, again, like I said, I started out dancing on one, and remember, you gotta remember, even Alex didn't stay on time,
No, he didn't.
right? I mean,
I
but
blame him for that before I went to Ava, but that's okay.
besides having that, he danced and he could dance you,
Yeah.
which was awesome about him. Um, but I questioned, what are you teaching your students? Even he, and I know this, I know Jake knows this, but in his class, he remembers saying that one day he's going to New York because he hears about the Mambo King, Eddie Torres, right? I know because I was there.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to check it out. Go for it. So when he did go and come back, he was teaching the pachanga step all of a sudden.
Right.
So it was great. It was good. And then, I still question, like, well, what about the rhythm? What are you teaching them? Because I grew up with some families that are Puerto Rican growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's Panamanian, and you pass by the house and they're playing salsa music, and you go to the park and you have friends out there jamming on the congas, and and I'm like, wow, this bass line it resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't until I was later, an adult. Basically, I must have been maybe 20 years old, when I took my first salsa class. or in a, the dance arena, because I just kind of jumped in and started doing every dance I could think of, after having seen that, been in the, and growing up with just, what's that called? Like street dance, right? Street
Right.
dancing. I had, after going to my first class with Alex, not too long after that, in 93, when I started my classes, I met a New York transplant, later became my dance partner, Sammy Irizarry, who didn't know how to dance then either, but was continuing to go back and forth to Eddie Torres's classes and trying to come back to tell me how it was and show me, no, you guys are dancing all wrong out here. You got to dance on two. And I'm all, well, explain it to me. How do you get on two? And then he couldn't tell me. So he brought David Melendez and a crew of New Yorkers out for the very first trip in 94, I want to say.
Right.
And we all got together and we were having a little jam session because he busted out with the congas. And I'm like, so tell me about this too. David Melendez. This is okay. Let me break it down to you. Right? You got the clave and you got the tumbao in the congas. And that, it just, boom, clicked. I'm like, that's what we're missing. We have to teach that. And he goes, yeah, because I don't know what you guys are dancing out here. He was cracking me up. He goes, man, you guys aren't on time. You're all over the place. And I'm like, oh, I know it. Okay, so, will you help me convert my classes and help me teach? Show me how to teach on two. And so he did. He literally took me into his studio at Starlight. I took a trip with Sammy out to New York, and he took me to his studio and he goes, all right, this is what I do. I got a syllabus. This is how the timing's broken down.
Yeah.
And I'll help you every step of the way. He goes, but when you go back to San Francisco Bay Area, you gotta teach your classes on two. And I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's all because of you. I'm gonna do this. And boy, I tell you, it was exciting, to say the least. I was totally, hooked to teach, because I was resonating in the bass of the music. And I wanted students to understand the music. Because if you don't have the music, you don't have the dance.
Yeah. Before I get into Ava, when you started teaching on two, right, Audrianna?
Uh-huh.
What was the reception like in the community, though?
They're like, what are you doing? Wait a minute, because they were, they didn't know what number they were in the song
in
or
the first place.
Yeah, and I said, it's okay, don't worry. It's the same step. We're just going to hang on to one beat, and you're going to repeat that step. It's all good. You're going to do the same thing. So, letting them realize that, oh yeah, I am familiar with this. I just got to know where I am in the music. It started clicking, but it was total pushback for a long time. I mean, I must have been, eyes piercing at me the whole time, what is wrong with this lady? And then, of course, it's, West Coast versus East Coast. I'm all, please, people, it's not about that.
I mean, I still remember when you were teaching at Kokomo, you have students there on the floor, right? But then you also have students just watching, right? And I would often hear them as like, I just can't get into it. I just can't get, because, my impression was they were in the class and they had to go to the side because they couldn't get it. But Ava, as a pro, as a professional, as a teacher, when On2 was introduced to you, as a professional, how long did it take you to learn it? Because it's really not about learning per se. It's about getting used to the timing or getting to know the theory of the timing, the music timing of the clave and tumbao. So, I mean, how long did it take you? Did you depend on counting, or did you depend on the instrument of the music?
So, okay, so just before I answer that, just to add a little bit to our history and our timeline.
Yeah.
Um, so before Sammy and Audrianna started teaching New York, Eddie Torres On2, I actually was probably the first salsa teacher to teach On2. However, I started out teaching Palladium 2.
Oh, so is that the power
Old
two?
school 2.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people call it Power 2, some
yeah,
people call it Ballroom 2, some people
yeah.
call it Palladium. I prefer to call it Palladium or Old School
Okay,
2. So 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8.
right.
Because I had danced that socially, and I started teaching that. I was teaching in Berkeley Tuesday nights. I had a lot of students, and at one point I had 3 classes per night, and I made the level, the advanced level, I just kind of forced it on them, the Palladium 2.
Yeah,
Yeah, but don't forget, that ballrooms across wherever they came from were always teaching mambo on too.
correct.
So that happened long before
Yeah.
this whole on two thing, and I know from our mentors, Angel Figueroa, who was in the ballroom arena, when he referred to anything teaching me was the classic
The classic
mambo,
tour power two. Yeah,
timing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I started with that, and then as I started to learn Modern 2 and Audrianna and Sammy teaching all that, I gradually switched. As I became more comfortable with it as well, I started teaching that in my level 3 class. As to how long it took me, I have always kind of naturally been good with timing. So it was not, it, it's hard for me to answer that question from like a student's perspective,
Yeah, yeah.
because I've kind of always, it's always been fairly natural for me to be able to hear the beat in a song.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Because
And it's not natural to a lot of people, but
Mhm.
and
yeah.
I think the reason for that, Ava, is that they're not musically inclined as to the beat of the songs, the beat of the music, the instruments, how essential it is with the timing
Mhm. Yeah.
of the dancing. As for me, as a student then who didn't know about the mechanics of mambo songs and salsa music, I was depending on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, or one,
Mhm.
two, three, five, six, seven,
Right.
or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was depending on that, and so therefore, when I started dancing on two, I had to depend on the count.
Mhm.
Thereby, when I do crossbody lead, I go back to one.
Mhm.
So I've always had that problem. And looking back at it now, it's probably because of the limited knowledge that I had with music. What do you think, Adriana?
Okay.
Adriana, do you think that's the case?
I mean, partially so if you didn't understand the bass line,
Mm,
because it is very rich in instrumentals.
yeah,
It has a lot of melodies, it's got a lot of other sounds going through the song that if you're not focused on the bass line, then yes, you would probably wonder where you were. Like, oh man, what am I listening to? Right.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a challenge overall, for anyone, whether
Mhm.
they were musically inclined or not. They have to know what it is they're listening to. And that was one of the reasons why I delve into, wondering what is it that we're listening to, asking Alex, like,
Yeah,
what's going, because I always knew how to move,
right.
just follow, right? Because we're just following. But I'd always find myself wondering, like, why are you counting to 12, what's going on here? And he was like, don't worry about it. They don't want to know this. And I said, yeah, sure they do, because I want to know this. I feel like as a student myself, I want to know,
Yeah.
and so I felt as an instructor, that was my duty. It is what I should do for my students. And that's why I took it on too, but
When I was teaching in South Korea, um, and to my surprise, 99.9% of all the classes there, salsa classes, of all the students that dance in socials, are all On2 dancers. The beginners class are On2. So my question to you
mhm.
ladies, as teachers in the Bay, should you start teaching On1 first for the beginners, or you just have to go teaching On2 from the get-go? Ava?
I don't think that matters. I think you teach what you want to teach. And I mean, I've seen, I mean, if you go to New York and you go to a beginner class, they're learning On2 and they're
Right.
learning it
And
just the same
they're not
as
going to
our,
question whether it's an On1 or On2, right?
no, it looks exactly like a beginner on one class out here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, beginner is beginner. The reason why you know, if you start out dancing on two in New York, and then you come here and you want to learn on one, you're going to have that same little learning curve awkwardness that when we started learning on two.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's like there's these different timings, and whichever you learn as a beginner, that one is probably going to come more natural to you, at least for a while. But if you are an on-two teacher, you don't teach them on one and then wait until they're advanced to teach them on two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Audrianna?
You teach either both, and you teach from the beginning on up.
Or you start, I mean, it's a little hard, but you start emphasizing the instrument from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I mean, I would hope to think that you could start that way, but like say you're what's kind of more casual in a club environment,
Mm,
you don't necessarily get technical because you don't either have the time or
yeah,
the focus, versus in a studio, because
yeah.
that's the big difference too. Is if you're in a studio, it's like totally,
Totally
the
work.
environment is totally there
It's
for that.
learning. Yeah.
Right, learning.
When
Whereas in the club, you're kind of just,
yeah.
the only thing I wished that in the club, because it's casual, you still have to teach etiquette.
It's a little hard. It's a little hard because the three of us has taught in the clubs, as you know. Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention the noises there. I hate teaching at clubs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't I can't get into it, but it is what it is.
So
Yeah.
when beginners come to me and say they want to learn, and when I ask them, are we working on one or on two? And if they say, I don't know, which sometimes they don't know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but sometimes they have heard of both and they don't know which one they should start with. So then I'll say, where do you want to go dancing? Where are you going to be using this?
Mm,
And if they tell me they go to such and such, or they're traveling to somewhere, then I might say, okay, let's teach you on one. If they say, oh, I want to go to these socials, then I'm going to start to teach them on two. So I try to fit as a teacher. I ask them where they're going to be using it,
yeah.
because there's some places that are predominantly on two, and there's plenty of places still that dance predominantly on one or
Absolutely.
on whatever.
Uh-huh.
Not to mention, ladies, not to mention music. Do you think that, I mean, at least in my point, I don't really care what type of music. I can dance on it. But
Mhm.
some schools there prefer certain type of music, let's say swing, to get into that onto groove. I mean, what do you ladies think? I'll ask Adriana because she's more into that music. I mean, what do you
Well,
think, Adriana?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
I
give you
like.
a real short answer,
Okay,
then you can
okay,
give the more
okay.
detail. So for one, I've always said that just like rock and roll from the 1950s, rock and roll from the
Yeah,
60s, rock and roll from now, right?
yeah,
It's all very different, but it's still the basic rhythm, still the basic same instruments. It's still called rock and roll. Okay, same with salsa, right? So whatever was being played in the 40s, 50s, 60s, the 70s, the 90s. Now it's all mambo to salsa, right? But it's all the basic same instruments, same rhythms, styles change, stuff like that. So that's how I kind of do it. I don't like to say, oh, this song is for On2, this song is for On1. I only dance this type of salsa, So that's my short answer.
I mean,
Audrianna?
yeah,
Yeah,
Audrianna.
no, what I would like to think that, the DJs or whomever it is, if it's even a band playing, that they won't do these 100-mile-an-hour,
Well, yeah.
songs,
We're
because a
talking
lot
about
of
the
these
Colombian
songs
salsa, probably not. Yeah.
getting so fast. It's like,
Yeah.
holy moly, what do you do? Usually if that jazz element or that quick, fast, rapid rhythm timing, then you just listen, right? It's mostly for listening, and you hope that it was a band performing so that you can get more out of it. But you certainly couldn't enjoy the dance floor much with it going so quickly. So, having the moderate tempos, danceable tempos, right?
Yeah. I mean, is it justified to listen to Tito Puente's music and call it mambo, but is it not justified to listen to Oscar de Leon's song and call it mambo?
I've always said it's mambo from the get-go. Honestly, because it's the character of the dance.
Right.
Salsa was a term, just to make it more modern, right?
Correct.
Dance didn't. I mean, the dance slightly changed, maybe the romantic element came more, whatever. But they were doing, back in mambo too, they were doing aerials and making it side by side work and
Sure.
all that
Sure.
too.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
as it turned into the modern days, I wouldn't want to say in the 70s, right? That's where the hustle comes in. Then the patterns and, the
Yeah.
aerials combined.
Right.
And then the music became a little more romantic and,
Right.
and it offered that extra piece that you could put into the dance.
Well, so we'll get into that. So I know there is a big role here as far as the connection of hustle to salsa. Tell me more about this historically.
So hustle is an American dance born in New York, right? In the Bronx and in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Created by youth, teenagers, whose parents danced mambo.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So they were influenced by their parents, right? Partner dancing.
Right.
And that Latin feel to their steps. They turned that into hustle. Okay. Hustle started doing more patterns and stuff because remember early mambo, even though, as Audrianna said, it did have side by side and it did have performance aspects, from watching old videos that mambo from the Palladium days was a lot less turns and patterns, and it wasn't that kind of intricate stuff. That came into hustle, doing different turn patterns and handholds and stuff like that. Then that gradually seeped into salsa. So salsa got a lot of the different handholds and all that from hustle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your progression. A lot of people think that hustle was from swing and all that. No.
Ava, was the countless turn patterns from hustle or just mambo itself?
No, the turn patterns in hustle have counts.
Okay.
It's all, yeah. I mean, so maybe what you're referring to, so in the early days of hustle and disco dancing, disco partner dancing, let's say.
Yeah.
Because hustle in New York really was even the very early stuff, if you're from New York, it was already doing the N1 2 3 N1 2 3 and syncopations and stuff like that. But in other places in the country, there was still people doing much simpler versions of that, rope hustle, different stuff that was just kind of almost like a merengue step, just a marching step. So that's why you could say countless patterns, right? But as soon as hustle and the timing and 1 2 3 started spreading around, then the patterns had that timing. Yeah. So that, yeah.
Audrianna, any thing to add to that?
Well, as far as you know, when you differentiate the On2 or the New York style, club style On2, the progressive step moving forward on one came from the hustle patterns. So it's, instead of doing the classic mambo, you know, 2 3 4, you get the progressing one that comes out of that hustle pattern motion.
Doesn't Eddie, I think Eddie Torres has said that he used to hang out at the, the nightclubs, the discos, and be seeing the hustle dancers, right? But he was working on salsa or mambo or whatever, and he kind of blended them a little bit, and that's how he came up with that timing that he uses.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I read that in an interview somewhere. It was a very old interview. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, even that's where we met, doing the hustle through our Hustle Dance Club Association.
Interesting.
With Raul Ante and Bobby.
I don't know, but for some reason, hustle was very popular for Filipinos. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, it was a different arena.
Yeah.
But and they played salsa too. But Ava and I first met through hustle.
Yeah.
And we just, you know, connected right away. We knew the same people who we were introduced through. And if I could remember correctly, I think it was even when Angel Figueroa was in town, or with Maria, doing a hustle workshop, that later that evening we had gone to a salsa club, and I think it was Mambo Rose's. No, we were in I want to say Sunnyvale. With Mambo Rose doing something out there, and that's where we met. That's how I remember meeting you. And then so Angel was like, yeah, that's Ava, you know, she dances hustle and roll, and through Raul we met. And then from that point on, it was like we're always in the same space, and we clicked, and hey, let's dance together kind of thing. And we had a lot of fun. I have our first bookends video, if you want to see it.
I mean, if you're able to share it. I mean, that would be something. I don't know how to share it on Zoom, but if you figure it out, you are.
Oh, you want me? I can do it on Zoom.
Yeah,
let's try. Sometimes on Zoom it doesn't
work on it while I talk to Ava. Work on it, and then you just share it. All right.
Okay.
But the Ava, the dancing on the slot, the linear
for salsa.
For salsa type of dancing. Do you think it's
I got it cued.
Do you think it's only for On2 people, Ava?
No.
Good.
So
Can you dance on On2? Oh my God! Look at.
Who is that?
So this is an event a Hustle USA event that we did.
God.
We had went
look
to.
At this two beautiful young ladies right here.
So we Angel Figueroa, Maria Torres O'Connor had an event, hosted an event, the Hustle Dance USA, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Ava and I attended, and we competed in a bookends category, which means same-sex partner dancing category. And we were up against, you know, some really great dancers. Cedric, right? That's where Cedric came in. But this is our routine. Let me show you. Here we go.
I haven't seen this in so long.
It seems like an
Oh.
old video. Yeah.
Is it gonna play?
It's probably, yeah. But, yeah.
The video is
Yeah.
catching
No,
up.
it always
Are
plays
you
weird
ladies
on snow.
dancing hustle here?
We're
Yes.
dancing hustle.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Wow,
You have
that's.
to,
And this is
And
in
it's-
New York.
hey,
This
guys,
is in Manhattan.
ladies, it's a competition, correct?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why we got our numbers on.
God,
Yeah.
we're so skinny.
I know,
Oh
right?
my God. This is such a gem. This
And
video,
look
man.
look at my hair. It's almost as long as Audrianna.
Look at my hair is all flat now.
That's my I think that's my natural hair color.
Who is
Yeah,
that in
it
the
is.
corner? Who is that in the corner in the DJ booth?
In the corner, let me see. Audrianna, you have to make a copy for me somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those I think those dancers in the background are mostly from New York.
New York, right?
Yeah. We're in New York. This is New York. And those two guys back there are the two we competed against.
And
It's
so
so
I don't.
funny. It's so funny that when I started ballroom, that was the first dance lesson I took. I never really got into hustle though.
So the video is quite choppy, but you can see. So
Oh,
now Audrianna is leading. I was leading the first half.
Right.
Now she's leading the second half. We did good. I can't remember. What did we come? Did we come in second or third?
Yeah, we did. We came in
Yeah.
second.
We did?
Yeah, because Cedric, he did a lift.
Yeah.
They did a lift together. So
Don't we
But
do
it's
it?
And then
very
I've got-
interesting because I see a lot of influence. The structure of the movements that you guys do, it's similar to Mambo. You know?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've got the second number queued when we went and returned the second time, Ava. So
Okay.
you'll see that one.
Oh, we did bookends again?
We performed a bookend.
Okay.
That's coming up next.
Okay. Were you partner up with Luis Rosa at this time already, Ava?
Yes, this is at that time period. Oh, I'd forgotten about this one.
Remember?
So this is a different day, right?
I think a different year,
A
right?
different year.
Yeah,
I
different year.
can see the style and hairstyles. Yeah, probably a different year.
I need both of these, Audrianna.
Oh yeah, I'll get it to you. I was surprised I found it.
See, this is, yeah, that's what I like about hustle because they don't stay on one spot, right? They use the whole ballroom, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like
does
it
look
because when I
smart.
was judging Luis and Anya, when
Look how much we're moving.
onto competition, they used the whole ballroom as opposed to that Australian champion who just we're in one spot. That's the reason the Australian champion didn't win because they didn't use the whole ballroom, you know.
And we just switched. Now I'm leading again. We always switched.
Yeah.
Made it look seamless.
All right, when you make a copy for me, then I'll
Oh,
post
that's
them.
good. You guys should post this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, all of this. Hey, ladies, all of this historical stuff has to be posted, man.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. And so, Ava and I were the first bookends.
Yeah.
Female bookends.
Yeah,
Right.
female bookends.
I mean, and it's so smooth, you know. It's just I don't see that now in our scene. But in fact, to be honest with you guys, back in the day, I could determine which one is an on-2 dancer and which one is dancing on one, right? But now, if I don't look at their feet, I can't see the difference with their.
That wasn't a fall. This is choppy. It was a sweep.
Yeah, it was a sweep.
It's because it's not showing it the full thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever seen you fall, Ava, because
I have.
Have you? I mean, no one is perfect, but that's good video. That's good videos right there, man. I mean, thanks, Audrianna. I'm glad you were able to learn how to do that. I don't know how to do it.
Well, again, you loving music is definitely the key component to just expressing yourself and being able to, be
Yeah.
creative that way. So
So, I mean, so what's a good lead to you, ladies?
A good lead, good leader.
Yeah, because you both can lead, and so
Well,
what's a good lead?
I'm gonna tell a little funny story. I know that Audrianna does not like it when leaders make her sweat.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I've always seen Audrianna dance relax, man. I mean,
Exactly.
she's like in for a ride. That's just it.
I remember one time her complaining about someone who had led her, and it was like he was doing too much because I shouldn't have to sweat that much while I'm dancing and fixing my hair.
But but the thing is, I've seen her dance, with one who is her husband now.
But
The difference between
she taught him. She taught him.
Frank and one is more energetic. Frank, when he dances, he's settled. I mean, he's set on himself. It doesn't matter how fast the song is. But one, he does a little bit of Frankie Martinez-ish stuff. But all right.
But she taught him from the ground up, and taught him, do this, don't do this. No, you're not doing that. keep your heel up.
I see now. Okay.
I mean, to some degree, I gave him some ground rules, right? But I let him. He gets to express himself too. I like a dancer who dances you. Not necessarily has to twirl you 100 times.
Yeah.
That's probably what Ava is referring to. My God, let me dance. Let me step it out, not just and twirl around like a top. Someone who can have a breathe through the song, definitely stay connected to you. I mean, I know a lot of it's not easy for men to be comfortable touching, and being comfortable leading, but to be able to be that base.
Do you think it has something to do with being mechanical versus feeling the music then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. Because, okay, so getting back to what I consider a great lead. A few things. One, looking at you, at least part of the time. I mean, as a leader, I want them to also be looking around so they don't lead me into someone, right? So that's important too. But you still have to occasionally be looking at your partner and relating to them.
Right.
You want them to be listening to the music and not be continuing with patterns and twirls when it goes into a slow part of the music.
Yeah.
Or to let you free to do some shines when it's, a drum solo. So someone listening, paying attention to the music, and paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good lead. A good lead right there. What do you think is, well, I mean, you pretty much answered. I was going to ask, what do you think is missing for a good lead? But you pretty much touched on it, pretty much everything there. I mean, Audrianna, do you still social dance? Do you still go to the parties and social dance and stuff?
Well, all the dancing I do now is at home with my husband. So yeah, we dance. We dance a lot.
Well, that's good.
It is good. But because we can't go out anywhere. But yeah, we dance at home.
Now, is Frank still on the Bay?
He is, and I always refer to him as the Mambo Man.
Seriously, if you want to describe what a mambo dancer is, a mambo male dancer is, that guy,
He took very clear notes. David Melendez, I mean, he's probably the closest to David as far as his whole feeling when it comes to dancing, because he really studied David.
I mean, he made Mambo more elegant in the way he danced. All
Oh
he
yeah.
needs to do is wear a tux. That's it, you know.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that I give it to him because he studied, and David was his idol. And, if, and having danced with David, having that experience with him, I mean, there's very few, like, remember Leo Garcia? He's
I
another
brought,
one. There's another New
brought him
York.
out here at one
Yeah.
point.
I mean, smooth as silk. That's why they refer to
Leo
him as
Silk
Silk,
Garcia.
Silk Garcia. Yeah. But David had the same, effect, I want to
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
because he took care of you out there. He wasn't about doing a million patterns,
yeah.
but he did make you feel like you were being danced, and then having fun at the same time.
I agree with you because when I was just beginning On2, and you know, I came from On1, Alex de Silva, Francisco Vasquez, and so we're talking about dipping someone every 3 seconds or something, or all kinds of tricks, you know. So learning mambo was more about simplicity and feeling the music and being elegant.
Mhm.
So when I saw from Francisco Vasquez to Frankie Martinez to David Melendez. When I saw David Melendez, like, damn, he's dancing. He's boring. He doesn't do a lot of stuff. That's when I was young. But when I got older, I appreciated and remembered David on the simplicity of the dance and the way he led. You know, it was her who was having so much fun because she was taken care of by the lead, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Simple
I
things go so far.
I remember before the shutdowns, about a year and a half ago, um, Rodolfo and I were, I think, in one of our classes. It was in one of our series classes, and we asked the students to tell us, who they've been looking at on YouTube and who they liked and why, right?
Yeah.
And so we pulled up a few videos. They gave us a few names. What's that?
Oops,
Not
sorry.
me.
There's a
Oh,
motorcycle driving by.
okay.
I got a busy street out in front.
Okay.
It wasn't a stomach problem, that's
No,
for
no,
sure.
no. And so, well, I'm always worried about Zoom bombing because I've been Zoom bombed twice and it was very bad.
Okay.
But anyway, so I forget who. There was two dancers that they had brought up in particular. One was Eddie Torres Jr.
Yeah.
and one was another one of the big current names. I truly, it's not that I'm not saying it because I don't want to say anything bad, but I truly can't remember who it was. But we played these two videos, and the one thing we noticed, the one that I can't remember who it was, sure, he was a great dancer, but there was no interaction with him and whoever he was dancing with.
Yeah.
And then we put on the video of Eddie Torres Jr., and I think he was dancing with Natasha Tia.
Mm.
And he was, it was like he was equally good of a dancer. They're both young, very good, tons of patterns, tons of body movement, etc. But he was relating to
Oh yeah.
Natasha.
Oh
He
yeah.
was smiling.
Mm.
And here's what the difference was. Natasha was smiling. The other girl that was dancing with the other pro that was, up there at the top, she wasn't smiling so much.
Yeah.
She was just trying to follow. And she was a good follow. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was, but it wasn't because the follower was a beginner or anything like that, right? It was because the lead was doing his own thing and not really
Yeah.
paying any mind to her. Whereas Eddie Torres' son, right? He knew he was smiling, he was relating to his partner. They looked like they were enjoying the dance together.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea when we teach our students, right?
Mm-hmm.
That partner dancing is a communication, it's a conversation, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of the teachers does not emphasize that because
Right.
that's what I see in the congresses. They're so busy doing this pattern, and for crying out loud, the follower can't breathe. You know? So,
Mhm.
all right, that's a good point. Now, here's a question that might be of importance. If it weren't for Gabriel Romero as the policy of, I can't dance with you because you can't dance on two. So I don't dance on one, so I can't dance on two with you. If it weren't for that era, that exclusiveness, do you think that On2 dancing would spread and still grow in the Bay Area without that?
Good question. I don't think that's what made it grow.
I think that's what made it grow. But
You do?
let's discuss it.
Well, I've never liked that attitude.
Well, I don't like it
Yeah.
personally. Yeah.
You know, I mean, a good, yeah, I've never liked that attitude. And since you brought up Gabriel, Gabriel, hi, Gabriel.
He's another legend there. He taught like
Yes, he is.
Also, yeah.
Yes, he is. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'm just going to share a little memory.
Okay.
It's nothing bad.
Yeah.
It's just something true, a little memory. So my partner at the time, Louis Rosa,
Yeah.
we were going back and forth to New York, and we were starting to learn On2 and starting to, incorporate it and starting to teach it. This was all around the same time as Audrianna.
Yeah.
And Sammy and all of that. And I specifically remember one time we had just come back from a trip, and so we were all kind of jazzed up and practicing it ourselves, not quite comfortable yet. And we were at what's the club in Alberto's in Palo Alto?
Yeah.
Probably a Thursday night, I think it used to be.
Thursday, yeah.
And Louis was talking to Gabriel. He was telling him about all jazzed about it and all that. And Gabriel's like, nah. Louis was like, you should try it. Come on, man, you should try it. It's too, I don't want to get into that. It's, too hard. And I'm, blah, blah, blah. About maybe 6 months later or whatever, the next year, Gabriel makes a trip to New York. He comes back. From then on, he never taught one again. He would never talk about it, blah, blah, blah. It was like, here he was poo-pooing it at first.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm not going to do that, blah, blah. And then he completely switched.
Well, you do remember that he used to teach on 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, he came to me, during that time, probably in between the time before he went to New York. He asked me, he goes, what's the difference? What is it? And I broke it down. A couple times he and I worked together on it. I showed him the difference between the 1, the 2, the 3. And he's like, oh man, okay, now I get it,
Yeah.
And then he took his trip to New York.
Yeah.
And I'm glad too that whatever, he was in his own element, I think.
Yeah.
And still is, which is great because I've seen him start from scratch. We probably were really close in the time that we were dancing at the same time frame.
Yeah.
Back then. And I got to watch him grow as a dancer. And he became better and better as time went by. So I necessarily didn't like having people say, oh, I want to only dance on 1, or I only want to dance on 2, because I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
If I was asked to dance and they said, what do you want to dance on? I said, whatever you want, And I remembered at Kokomo, one guy really got snappy about it. And he goes, well, I'm just going to dance on 1, like that real snappy. And I go, okay, just stay on time.
But don't you think that was one of the reasons why people wanted to dance strictly on 2, because most of the Bay Area dancers at that time were not dancing on time?
I don't know.
Well, you got to
I,
remember this because, you know, one of the most popular teachers there at the time was Alex de Silva, and he was, I trust me, when I used to take
True.
his classes, he would teach me shines until number 32. And then
right.
we will ask him, Alex, what's number 12? He has to start all over again. That was
And
Alex.
that's why I was saying to him, well, you got to be in the music. Like, there's only 8 counts in a bar music. Come on. So he was like, yeah, you don't need to do that. And I'm all, okay, whatever, you know. He goes, yeah, forget about it.
But
But
you know what, ladies, as painful it was, I'm looking back at it, being a student, right? To be rejected by beautiful women dancers saying, I can't dance on one, I only dance on two. As a leader, it kind of forced me to learn on two. I didn't learn on two because I like the new timing or I like the no, I wanted to dance with good dancers. I wanted to
mhm,
dance with ladies that can dance and good looking ladies at the same time. So hell, I gotta up my game here, which I think probably 50% ish that helped the Bay Area to really get into that because I
mhm,
can relate a little bit because you know when I was just starting bachata and promoting in the Bay Area, nobody liked it either. Okay,
Mhm.
usually nobody likes new stuff until they get used to it, they get to know it, they see it, they get
right.
inspired, and you know, at
Mhm,
least that's what I think. Although I didn't like the concept of it, I didn't like the 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 marketing side of it. Uh,
mhm.
I think that in the end, I think it benefited at some point in the Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you bring up a point, an aspect about it that I feel I understand it, what you're saying.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought of that or related to it because, like I said, as a follower, um, I mean, I think I've never liked that attitude of I only dance this or
sure,
that.
sure.
And and also, like I told you at the beginning of the interview, I've always been pretty natural at picking up timings and being
Right,
able to hear the beat and music.
right.
So if someone is leading me one way or the other, I follow them.
Yeah,
But I can understand coming from the leader's point of view, like you said, if you're
yeah.
coming up against these good dancers and they're not wanting to dance with you because of a timing, it will force you to want to learn that. So that's a
But
good point.
I got,
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought of that.
I want to say it probably goes both ways too. And
yeah,
that's probably why the ladies were like, gee, I'm tired of getting my arms ripped off. You know, if I could dance with a dancer that dances on 2 and knows where to put me, you know,
right.
make sure the etiquette, right? I'm not being thrown into somebody next to me. That plays both ways. The follower wants to be taken care of out there too,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
know,
and
honestly,
and that's the difference that you can see, you know, in learning to dance on
right.
2 versus on 1.
But honestly, if I didn't learn on two, I would not be able to dance on all timings. We're talking on three or even on five, introduced by Ricardo Tellez, if you remember Ava. Honestly, I wouldn't know. And for me to teach bachata now, bachata, all kinds of styles, especially traditional, where I emphasize the timing on three, which is more natural to bachata. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And everybody was like, I think it's on one, but naturally for us dancers who learn to count on one, we would always, as leader, step on our left foot on one. But really, the Dominicanos don't, you know. And so that's another thing right there. And so that's another thing that in the bachata industry is like, what the hell are you introducing now? You know. But now we're going back to that onto phenomenon. There were some benefits to me as a dancer, in my opinion.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
why I was asking you ladies if it like, should we just start them on two in the get-go and not on one? Because when you start dancing on two, in my opinion, as a student, then it is then easy for you to dance on one. It is then easy for you
So
to dance on three.
we we tried that. Trying to remember if it was with Rodolfo or before Rodolfo and I started teaching. But there was a period of time at one of might have even it might have been before Rodolfo. I don't really remember exactly when. I'm thinking it was at Acapulco. But there was a period of time where I figured, okay, let me just switch my classes to On2, even beginner, and not say anything.
Yeah.
Not say On1 or On2, because most of the people coming to a beginner class don't know.
Yeah.
Right? They're just coming to a beginner class. And so, no, I think it might have even been at our studio. We had one night where we were teaching a beginner On2, and but I didn't make a big emphasis about it. We just started to switch it to On2. But, it didn't quite work, because in our area at least, there's still a lot of On1 or, on whatever. And to all of a sudden be doing On2, which is, people come to you and they've learned from their parents or from their family, and those people are not really doing that Eddie Torres On2 rhythm.
Right.
They're doing what's closer to the rhythm of On1 or On3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so it just threw people off. It didn't really take off. And so we just went back to, okay, when we do On2, we call it On2. We aim it more, not so much at those brand new beginners who know nothing. We aim it at people who have been dancing a little while.
Yeah, and you're right. To the people that are very used to the counting concept and starting on your left if you're a leader, starting on your right if you're a follower in any dance, even in ballroom for that matter. Yeah,
Right.
it would be a bit hard for them to change that pattern, but it is what it is. This is very educational, ladies. We talked for an hour and a half about
Oh,
On2.
wow.
Isn't that great, right?
I told you it's easy
It goes
talking.
fast.
That's
Just
great about my podcast, man. We can just get into a lot of discussions and get into that flow, even with one subject, right? So, ladies, I want to thank you. I want to thank you both. You both have contributed greatly in the growth of salsa dancing in the Bay Area, as you know. I do give credit to Audrianna, as I always been, for
Yes.
starting On2 in the Bay Area, and I give credit to Ava for telling me that I was not on time dancing. I'll blame that with Alex De Silva, but it's all good. So I'll bring you guys back again when you think of a good subject about the Bay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. We'll add one more guest or something.
Okay.
I like to catch up with the old friends that I have in the Bay. Now that I live in Reno, as you know. But anyways, ladies, it's great talking to you.
Thank you, Rodney. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye.